Hello everyone, welcome to the HIVEI'mIan channel. This is Ian, and only Ian, for the first time. Yeah, I'm alone. My first ever solo video. This feels weird. So, yes, a follow-up to the post-draft power rankings. I said I was going to bring these every single week, and I'm not lying, I'm not dipping. So, week 1 is upon us. Let's just dive right in to see what happened the first week of matches. See where everyone's placed. So, at our number 16, we still have Genius X and the San Francisco Star Raptors. Starting off on a losing note, unfortunately for Mr. Genius X, and a lot of issues that were brought up in the team, and that were brought up and potentially not even brought up during the post-draft power rankings, is he didn't have a fairy type. Like, I checked sheets again, and I don't believe he had a fairy type. So, David Magic could just bring both of his dragon types and kind of just put in a lot of work with him. I will admit, Genius did make some very, very good plays, like scouting out for the Z move on Komao that would have just plowed through Dragonite's multi-scale and killed off the Komao in a weakened state that allowed the game to continue and bring down the differential a little more. I respect the defensive Thunderwave Mew, because, like I said, Mew was one of his only real reliable ways to defog. And he did need to get rid of hazards for his Scolipede and Dragonite in the back, including Assault Vest Torkoal and Blacephalon. Like, this was a big problem that I did address. His team is so rocks weak, and it shows that he needed that. In fact, I'm pretty sure since Torkoal was Assault Vest, he probably had room to, just run Rapid Spin on it. Am I still recording? Yeah. Okay. I need to record on my iPad because my computer's being a piece of crap right now, so it is what it is. I just need to make sure I'm continually recording because I need to basically do this in one take. I'm not going to rush this, though. That doesn't mean I'm going to rush this. I have my notes here. I have everything that I want to say. We're good. So, yeah, his team just got kind of mulled over by the fact that Magic was able to get up rocks and keep them up, because he was able to pressure. Actually, did he keep up rocks? I don't even know if he kept up rocks, but just to be able to consistently pressure Genius and keep him into a corner, just kind of always kept him in the back. His team is hyper offense, but doesn't really have the speed other than Scolipede to really keep up the hyper offense. And also, Rotom Wash kind of went on a tear and kind of pivoted around his team. And the one thing he couldn't Volt Switch on was Crocodile. And, Crocodile doesn't really deal with Rotom Wash. It just allowed him to have a very bulky pivot. He had Doublade to deal with Scolipede. He had a Scavalier to also deal with Scolipede. He had Rotom Wash deal with Crocodile. And then it was just not a good week for Magic. And his team, like, Blacephalon could have potentially swept in the late game, but it would have been very situational, and Diancie was kept at near full to full HP the entire game, so it really never could have happened in the circumstances that were made, like, at that point in time. So, yeah, Magic stays down here for, I think, still having the weakest draft. So he's not going to move up if he keeps losing, unfortunately. I want to see him. I want to believe in Blacephalon. I want to see a Choice Specs mind blown boosted by the sun at some point. That's what I want to see. But who cares what I want? I'm just the analyst. That's really anal. That's why we call it. That's why we call it the analyst, because I just pinpoint out really minute details about stuff. It's getting ranty. Anyway, we'll move on to number 15. Alex and the Jacksonville Jellicents, who got knocked down a spot because they got 6-0'd. And the only reason he's not number 16 is because I still feel like his draft is better on a regular basis, on like a consistent level, but I don't think he's going to, you know, it's going to be really hard for him to pick up these wins when not only does it seem like it's hard for him to consistently keep his Mons healthy when he always is forced to pivot, but he can't really break through opposing teams' bulk. Like, once Persian caught Landorus with an HP Ice that killed it, that O-code the Landorus, he had absolutely no way to kill Toxapex. His way of killing Toxapex was flinching it to death with Harsh Stamp, which was a thing, but at the time, L5 had 6 other Pokemon, including five other Pokemon, including an Alolan Persian. So, by the way, I'm sorry if you hear background noise. There's kind of a bit of a storm going on outside. So, anyway, yeah, that's really what this game came down to. It's just L5 kept rocks off the field, so Toxapex was almost always coming in and regenerating a lot of health. All it took was him coming in on Jirachi, which was a choice lock Jirachi, locked itself into Ironhead. He just needed to switch in, get his health back, scare it out, get the regenerator up, and that was game. T-spikes were up, Alex had no way to remove the hazards, and Toxapex would have just stalled out the rest of his team. That's it. Alex did not have the braking power to be able to get through Toxapex. I mean, at one point Abomasnow went for an earthquake on the thing, and it did 26%. I believe Alex can bounce back from this week. I believe he is going to need to make some changes to his team to make it a bit less passive. Because as it stands right now, also, I didn't really understand the final Gambit play. Like, yeah, like he brought in a Selgor on Alolan Persian, I believe, and went for final Gambit. One, it didn't even kill Toxapex, which I'm sure was what it was trying to kill upon switch-in. And two, why not Bug Buzz and then final Gambit? Because it would have gotten the necessary chip damage to kill with final Gambit the next turn, and if Alolan Persian stays in, then you're not killing off your Selgor. I personally didn't understand that play, but it wasn't my play to make. Oh, might have been moving that slightly, sorry. Anyways, number 14 in the Real Magikarp, Arf, who also got 6-0'd. Granted, I didn't have his team ranked too highly anyway, very similar to Alex. And by the way, I'm putting these pictures here just so that you can see like the team preview and see the 6 mons that they brought, so that I can more analyze the team matchups, like from a what they brought perspective rather than they should have brought this perspective. Although I will occasionally make a remark about how if they would have brought this, maybe the game would have changed. Like right now. Okay, so let's get the cat out of the bag. Turn 1, there was a freeze, but I don't know how much it mattered, because Ferrothorn, in order for the game to not have ended up the way it did, Ferrothorn would have needed to have both either or HP Fire or Bulldoze. It would have needed to have either one or both of those moves. Otherwise Heatran was still going to be a consistent problem and could always switch in on Ferrothorn anyway and get behind a sub and deal massive damage to his team. Either that or Arf would have been forced to bulldoze until Ferrothorn went down anyway, in which case Ferrothorn wouldn't have been there for the rest of the game anyway. I mean, it sucks that he wasn't able to get up rocks and potentially spikes, but if you look at how much health the Pokemon had, they weren't really pressured enough by Arf's offense, and it was hard for Arf to really get his offense in and make sure that, you know, the Pokemon were pressured to consistently switch out and take the hazard damage. I didn't see a moment where it didn't look like Risepool was in control even without the freeze. And then once he got behind a sub and got the knockoff kill on Victini, it was over. Sub Kartana was a great bring versus Arf, because one of his better ways of dealing with it was a scarfed Ditto that could copy its stats and then have the Scarf and Revenge kill it. But if you're behind a sub, then it's basically over. Plus the sub also stopped Prankster T-Wave from Thunderous Eye. So unfortunately, Arf kinda didn't really have anything for Heatran or Kartana. I mean, maybe if he had brought Slowbro, but I'm pretty sure the Heatran was just dual stab plus toxic. Like that set would have made sense. It would have at least like put him in a situation where he could have kept scalding, like maybe an AV Slowbro with Grass Knot, Psychic, H Fire, and maybe Drain Punch for the Greninja. I mean, Grass Knot probably would have done more anyway. I don't know why I said Drain Punch. Really anything else. I'm not sure what he would have replaced on the team. Maybe Lycanroc. I don't know. Though Lycanroc is good for Cell Rock in the late game. I'm not entirely sure what Arf could have done. It's just unfortunate that at the end of the game he didn't really have anything to stop Risepool from just taking control and ending the game right there. I mean, he could have went into Lycanroc and potentially either Fire Fanged or Thundurus and Thunderbolted and broke the sub, but then he would have been forced to lose a Mon, and then he'd have to play the pivot games again. And I don't really know if there was anything Arf could have done to recover, even without the freeze. Because it wasn't really a game of... Unfortunately, this game wasn't really a close game. It was kind of... Risepool had control from the beginning. Even if the freeze didn't happen, I thoroughly believe that the same result with the same numbers would have happened. And I'm not even saying it's Arf's fault. I'm saying he didn't exactly have a good matchup either, but it's hard to blame matchup when you get kind of tossed. So, recover next week. I believe you can do it. By the way, I haven't watched any of the Week 2 games because I like to go in fresh and then just give my thoughts on the games after I watch them all in succession. So, I don't know what happened to you Week 2, Arf. I'm hoping things went better. I want to believe in you. And I want to believe in your drafting around Ferrothorn strategy. So, anyway, are we still recording? Yes. Okay, so anyway, number 13, the Los Angeles Lookers, who had a very hard drop. Now, I will give a couple credits here to Mr. Jarrett. Where did I write him down? Oh, did I not? Oh, fuck me. I'm sorry about that. I just realized I didn't write anything down for this match. Well, or free ball on this one then. So, I do remember what happened in the match though, and it was turn 1, Tornadus kind of came in and Empoleon set up rocks, Tornadus went for superpower, and His only hazard removal that he brought to this match was Tornadus Therian, and Tornadus Therian was clearly Assault Vest because of something that would happen turn 3, so he had no hazard removal. And when Incineroar was his best switch into Gengar, you know things weren't going to go well. I mean, he did have a Snorlax, but later on you'll see that Daniel put up both rocks and spikes from Chestnut, and did a lot more with Chestnut actually. And he was consistently pressuring all of his team, the Incineroar, the Snorlax, and he did get a very unfortunate for Jarrett poison with Sludge Wave on Snorlax. So every time Snorlax switched in, it was forced to take 12 plus I believe another 16%. So it was basically forced to take like 40% just upon switching in and staying in for a turn. And unfortunately, in the end game, that just kind of meant that Gengar had a field day. Turn 3, he burnt the Z move to get Thundurus down to basically 10%, and Regen couldn't save Tornadus because every time it switched in, it was only getting like 8% of its health back. It wasn't able to consistently get health back, and because rocks were constantly on the field, that just meant that Tornadus was basically forced to be kept low, and he'd have to predict to get it in. And when he tried to get it in on Chestnut unpredicted Spike, Daniel made a great read, went for Wood Hammer, knocked out the Tornadus, and then he lost his Mamoswine because the Chestnut was Yachi, and from then on it kind of went downhill for Jarrett. I will give him credit. If he could have gotten rid of Gengar, Scarf Sock probably would have swept, because he did a good read and went for close combat on the Gengar, knowing that Daniel would fear him being Scarfed knockoff. If he had Earthquake, I believe he should have went for Scarf Earthquake, but he clearly didn't have it by the end game because he just locked himself into close combat even when Daniel still had a Gengar. So it was a real unfortunate game for Jarrett. He just didn't really have anything to properly deal with the Gengar once Incineroar went down, and Incineroar, because of the hazard stacking, couldn't even really be a check to Gengar anymore, and because of the poison, Snorlax couldn't be a check to Gengar anymore. So, and Mamoswine kind of just went down really early, so it was a really unfortunate game for Jarrett. I hope he bounces back. I really do, because I really like the look of his team. It's just, this was just not his week. This was just not his week. He got overwhelmed by hazards. So anyway, this is a bit of a buffer pick. Because number 12 is in Versified as Philadelphia Scolipede. And yes, he is 0-1, -1, and he did move up 3 spaces. This is for 2 reasons. One, while I'm still supporting my picks from last week, I will admit I made a mistake. Inversify should not have been number 15. Inversify should not have been number 15 with his Philadelphia Scolipede, because he has a way better draft than I gave him credit for. The fire and grass weakness was not as big. It's still big, but some of the other teams above him had just as many holes, including Alex's, which to this day I still really don't like. And he, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, he has Slurpuff, which is a Sticky Web mon, but I think I focused too much on the fact that it was a Sticky Web rather than, oh yeah, he just needed a really good Fairy type. And Slurpuff is a good fat Fairy type with a Sticky Web option. I guess I didn't really think that far ahead, and I feel really stupid for not thinking that far ahead. And also, this is one of the closest matches this week. In fact, I think it is the closest match this week. It came down to a Comfey living on 4%. It came down to a Comfey living on 4% from a Blaze-boosted Infernape Flare Blitz. He is only number 12, because I feel like I have to support my picks from last week and properly place them basing on the matchups and based on the results and trying to put everyone else in a proper spot. But I do believe that Inverse played a really good game. He had a really solid team for this. A bulky Kyurem Black to help deal with Manaphy. I could tell by the fact that he took literally 22% from a super effective Comfey Draining Kiss. I mean, yes, it's a Comfey, but I mean, it's still a super effective move, and he took 20%. He didn't even take rocks from that Draining Kiss. He must have been super spadef. And offensive Gliscor, Ace's team, aside from Crobat, really doesn't have the best the best ground switch in. So Edgequake coverage did kind of destroy Ace's team. So him having an Edgequake sweeper in Gliscor with Baton Pass, Agility, Jolteon in the back. That was a great idea on his part. Unfortunately, he never really got the chance to get it off. And because his Celebi was Scarfed, confirmed Scarfed, because Gothitelle was also Choice Scarfed, which we would find out later in the match, he wasn't able to tell that Gothitelle was Scarfed into Signal Beam, so he missed out on a potential setup opportunity with Gliscor, which could have potentially won him the game. Potentially, or no, maybe not even won him the game, but just would have gotten like enough damage on his team that Infernape could have picked up the win, but it just wasn't meant to be, and I'm not going to HIVEI'mIan. But also, Rocky Helmet Bisharp, that was a fun set. Just, in theory, it would have worked if he didn't predict it and go for Power-Up Punch on that specific turn. Just that specific turn, clicking Power-Up Punch, kind of neutered the effectiveness of that Bisharp, but also got off the Rocky Helmet damage and put him in Sucker Punch range. I think, yeah, put him in Sucker Punch range. So he just went for Stealth Rocks, knowing that the Kangaskhan would have died if he hit him again, and was fine with getting Rocks up if he switched, and then Sucker Punch the Manaphy to finish that off. And Versify played really well, and he brought some really solid sets. And I think this was the closest game of the week. Versify deserves a better ranking than I'm giving him, and I can recognize that. I'm standing by the fact that I gave him number 15 last week, even though he deserved better. So, I want him to prove me wrong. I want him to climb up the ladder, and I want him to be one of the more successful teams, because he impressed among a person he impressed against a former coach in Beedrill that is now Mega Beedrill. So, yeah. Yeah, let's go Inverse. I believe in you. Anyway, number 11, the biggest drop of the week, Ice and his Barcelona Bagons. Now, it's not really fair to say Ice got tossed, but Ice got tossed. He got obliterated. Like, okay, you can see his team has nothing for Primarina. Absolutely nothing for Primarina. And it's one bad week, so I'm not going to knock him down like all the way down to number 16 or anything. But I feel like that this was such a decisive victory that I really do have to knock him down, because unfortunately, our good friend Jowl, our good friend Jowl had a Tyranitar, so it just instantly shut down any sort of Aurora Veil shenanigans. And he also has a Primarina. And Ice has one resistance to water, being Suicune, and one resistance to Fairy, being Charizard, which it's not even a resistance once it Megas. And it doesn't even take a Moonblast well to begin with. So, when turn 1 he leads with Primarina, and I believe Ice led with Landorus, something dies, and it was Drapion. And T-Spikes would have been nice for later on in the match, especially considering Garchomp was a massive nuisance. But I believe I had some notes for this. Oh, yeah. Yeah, he didn't have any Primarina switch-ins, and he never went for setup with Zard. Now, granted, I don't know his exact set. I don't know exactly what he brought, so I don't even know if he had setup on Zard. But if he had set up a Dragon Dance at any point in that matchup, it would have made life a lot harder for a good putty Jowl. Granted, he probably had some sort of a... I'm still recording, okay. He probably had some sort of backup plan for a +1 Zard. It was probably Scarf Azelf, because he couldn't be Scarf Chomp because that's his Mega. So maybe he was... I don't know what he would have actually done if he at any point went for +1, but he didn't. So he just must not have been +1, which would just be unfortunate for this matchup, because +1 Zard actually did put in quite a decent chunk of work. But, yeah, also, one set that I'm really surprised he didn't bring... I'm really surprised he didn't bring Smackdown Lando, or Gravity Lando, because, that set would have done massive, massive work with him having a Celesteela and a Rotom Heat. Like, it would have knocked them to the ground so we could then hit him with super effective Earthquakes. I'm really surprised. Even Azelf. Like, at that point, he would have no safe switch-ins to Earthquake. But I'm pretty sure Ice Scarf brought a Scarfed Lando, which, not entirely sure why he brought. I mean, it outspeeds Chomp. But at that point, you just get walled by Celesteela. And you can't lock yourself into Earthquake because he has said Celesteela, Rotom Heat, and Azelf. So, I gotta admit, I'm not entirely sure why he potentially brought in Scarf Lando. Well, all we ever saw it do was click U-turn and Earthquake on Pokemon that I think were slower than it, so it was hard to judge. And then Choice Specs Raikou was solid for the matchup, but Jowl made very many proper predictions. I'm sorry, Jowl. Wow. I honestly feel really bad for not pronouncing your name the proper way, but I'm recording this at 7 in the freaking morning, and I honestly don't have the brain capacity to be like, oh, Joey-ow, that's how you pronounce your name, or it's actually Joel, and Joao is just a nickname. Oh, God. But anyway, yeah, it's just really unfortunate. He basically played the game with 5 Mons to get 12% off on Primarina and then loses Drapion turn 1, and the rest of his team kind of just slowly got whittled and mollywopped. They both made really aggressive doubles, but Jowl always ended up getting the better end of it, and when he didn't, he would make a great play, like going into Primarina on an expected Hidden Power Ice on Raikou, which basically got him big damage on anything else. And yeah, it was a decisive victory. It wasn't one of the 6-0s of this week, but it was still a very decisive victory in Jowl's favor, so yeah. Let's move on to number 10 and the Arizona Cardinals. Now, why is a 4-0 victory placing someone at number 10? Well, basically, even some of the people that lost, I had them at number 2 and number 3, so I still clearly believed in their team structure and their capabilities. And so And even if I drop them by a pretty sizable chunk, they're not going to get past someone who I currently had at the time I had at number 14. I did move him up quite a decent chunk for still securing a pretty solid win versus a Blue Potato and the Washington Clawiters, who I had placed at number 3. I could have potentially moved him up more, but I didn't really feel like this one victory solidified him to be higher. Than I had him. One thing I do have for him is that he kept his Palisand and Skarmory very healthy throughout the matchup. And I'm not entirely sure what his Volcanion spread was, but he managed to live the opening turn on 1%. He lived a Tapu Koko Thunderbolt on 1%. I don't know if that was Assault Vest or Max Spadef or Focus Sash, or I don't know what that set was that you were... Either that or he predicted him to go into Palisand and just kind of made an aggressive Fire Blast play. But it ended up working out because he got massive damage off on that Koko. And turn 1 kind of forced APB into a bit of a more defensive position. Hoop Unbound never even hit the field, I don't think. He had a Spadef Mesprit that 1v1 to Calm Mind Keldeo, basically. Or put it in revenge killing range for Mega Lopunny. Now APB had a very unfortunate Seed Flare miss, which, depending on how offensive his Shaman was, could have really messed up APB's plan, because he could have gotten big damage off on that Palisand and pressured it to never get rocks back up. Because what happened during a lot of this match was APB would go into Shaman, and then Dougal would go into Skarmory, and then APB would go into Tapu Koko to defog or Roost. Dougal would go into Palisand, and rinse and repeat. Dougal was really able to mitigate the damage of Mega Camel under Trick Room by having a Protect Psyshock Mesprit that put in so much work. It stopped Calm Mind Keldeo from being a problem and stopped Camel from being a problem. And I'll talk more about like the Trick Room Gardevoir set when we get to a Blue Potato, because I do have some concerns about the way he played and the way he prepped. But overall, I think Dougal played a really solid game. Once Palossand dodged the Seed Flare, he's like, I can keep this. I can keep this for Tapu Koko, and then just used it as a Tapu Koko counter and just consistently got up rocks. And missing that Seed Flare was the worst thing that could have happened to APB in this battle. I mean, it is Seed Flare. It's basically like going for Stone Edge. So you can't be too mad when it misses. I mean, it's like you run Seed Flare over Giga Drain for a reason. Like, you either run Giga Drain, Energy Ball, or Grass Knot if you want accuracy. But if you want raw power, you run Seed Flare. So, yeah, that's an unfortunate consequence of the move. So let's move on to number 9, the New England Pidgeots. Now, again, why I have them at number 9 is just because I feel like the other entries are still more solid teams and still prove themselves decently. Either that, or like I couldn't drop them down far enough to justify Will moving up more. And besides, this was, I'm not going to say a shaky victory, but one of the more... Things would have changed if there wasn't a crit. Turn 2, I believe Diggersby gets his Choice Band knocked off. And then does some damage to an Uxie. U-turns into Garchomp and gets crit with the return, which stopped the Garchomp from getting up rocks. I know the Whimsicott had Defog, but it would have been a turn that he was forced to go for Defog. instead of being able to leech seed Encore and do whatever it wanted. It gave Whimsicott a lot more liberty that Will took advantage of and played a lot more risky with his Whimsicott. It allowed him to leech seed. It allowed him to beat a Volcarona 1v1 by leech seed Encoring it. Or at least, it not beat it, but it forced out a Volcarona. A Whimsicott forced out a Volcarona, which was a very aggressive play, but I think Will was able to make the read, knowing that he wouldn't just go for a straight fire move when there was an Alolan Muck in the back. Sorry, I had to take a drink. So, yeah. I think at the end of the day, it's just... Will played very solidly. He played very recklessly, but it was all to set up for a Scarfed Zapdos sweep, and when Garchomp went down very early in the match, the situation was already set. He just needed more damage on the Volcarona and more damage on the Scizor, and a bit more chip on the Uxie, and throughout the match he got all of what he needed for Scarfed Zapdos to just come in and clean up, which it did. But if there wasn't a crit on the Garchomp, he would have been able to get rocks up, and Whimsicott may not have been able to do its thing. It's theory modding at that point. But I won't take away from Will's win. He won in a very decent fashion, and he was able to secure a 1-0 victory and went to 1-0. So keep going, Will. You'll move up. I'll move you up a lot higher next week if you win again. Trust me. Trust me. I'm a doctor. I'm not really a doctor. So anyway, number 8, we got APB and the Washington Claw Itzards. Now, I knocked APB down a lot of spaces. I still really like his team. Am I still recording? I gotta ask that sometimes, because again, I need to do this all in one take. So, yeah. So, APB, I liked the Tapu Koko set. I liked the Roost Defog Tapu Koko that was able to take advantage of Skarmory. Unfortunately, like I said earlier, once that Seed Flare miss happened, he was way in the back. And also, I liked the Trick Room Gardevoir set, but I think he went for it a bit too early. After I believe, Specially Defensive Protect Mesprit was already revealed. So, once the Trick Room was activated and Mega Camel came in, Mesprit was able to just protect, stall out turns, go for Shadow Ball, protect again, and just stall out the Trick Room. And Mega Camel was weakened at that point, so there wasn't really an opportunity to set up the Trick Room again. So basically one of his win cons was just decimated right out the get-go. I mean, if you look at Dougal's team, he really doesn't have a good switch into Mega Camel. I mean, his best switch-in was Mesprit, and I think even that took like 64% from a Fire Blast. So, yeah, that was 2-hit KO'd even after Protect. So, yeah, it's just a really unfortunate circumstance. Gardevoir wasn't able to clean up at the end because Palossand was still healthy enough to take a Moonblast no problem. Volcanion getting the Fire Blast off in the beginning. But he also set up a bit early with the Calm Mind Keldeo. Now, granted, he had no idea that he was going to be running a specially defensive Mesprit. But he also had to have known that he wasn't going to die to a +1 hit from Keldeo. And also, Lopunny was still there and could just revenge kill Keldeo anytime it got a kill. So it wouldn't have been able to put too much offensive pressure on Dougal. And also, I'm surprised he didn't pack Protect on Registeel for Lopunny, because Lopunnies are known for running high jump kick. I'm surprised he wouldn't want to pack the Protect for that. He went into the match without protection, and he paid for it. So, I don't really have much more to say. APB kind of got unfortunate with a lot of this matchup, but I also think that a lot of it was... also, he made a really weird play in where he went Registeel on Palossand after his Mega Camel got knocked out, and then doubled into Tapu Koko. I get you were trying to lure him out into Skarmory by going for Toxic. I get that was the intention, but I don't think the Toxic on Palossand would have changed anything at that point. Like, he wasn't going to consistently keep Palossand in enough for Toxic to really roll it over. And you basically risked your Tapu Koko, which was at that point I think the only thing that could kill Skarmory, and it didn't work. I get it, high risk, high reward play, but even if you get that play right, what's stopping him from just going back into Palossand? Like, I just don't think there was enough reward there to even really justify going for it. I think like, I don't know. I don't really understand that play, and I'm gonna knock him a bit for it. I still really like his team structure, and I still really think he has a good shot at making playoffs and things like that. Like, I know that's early to say, but I think his team is good, and I know his battle abilities are good. I just don't know, really, where the rest of the season is going to take us. I believe in APB's abilities. He just needs to perform. So anyway, let's move on to number 7, which you already got a sneak peek for. The Chicago Caracostas. What the fuck? I'm stuck. I'm stuck. Help me. I can't move. I'm stuck. Oh no. Hang on. Oh no. I'm stuck. I've fallen and I can't get up. Okay, there we go. There we go. I got stuck and I couldn't move forward. I got so scared because I'm already probably at least half an hour, 40 minutes into this, and I really did not want to have to restart. So Chicago Caracostas had a really close match. I'm only really knocking him down this many pegs because I feel like the other teams kind of deserve to be where they are. Holy crap, that was loud thunder. I am going to keep my phone on in case this gets a severe thunderstorm warning. Oh my god. But anyway, yeah, it was a tough loss for Omega. If he was able to get the rocks up, if he was able to, if things had just gone a bit more favorable, and he wouldn't have gotten crit, he would have at least been able to get rocks up and try. I just really think that this match is one of those matches that you kind of wonder what would have happened. But it's not what happened, and I think Omega played a really solid game from then on. I mean, the one thing I can say is that he didn't scout for Scarf Zapdos, but when do you really expect Scarf Zapdos? So, yeah, I mean, offensive Zapdos did have a really good matchup, but when do you really expect the Scarf Zapdos to come? I don't really have anything more to say about Omega's performance. I think he performed the best out of the losers this week. I mean, him and Inverse both performed very solidly. It's hard to say who outperformed the other. I just think they both put on so many solid performances and both made very solid plays. I don't really think Omega played a flawed game. I just think Will had really good prep and also got a bit fortunate in the beginning. So we'll move on to number 6. And L5, who still hasn't given me his logo. This is just a portrayal of my reaction when I saw that it was still not in the Logos chat. And still hasn't been sent to me. Any of you guys who have ever played Pokemon Conquest, can you portray to me exactly what this character is doing, and why he's in the game, and why he looks so pissed off? What is he doing? Why is he so mad? But yeah, L5 kind of steamrolled Alex. I moved him up 5 spaces. The only reason I didn't move him up more is because Alex's team I really don't like, and I think it was an easy team to kind of do this to, and it was just kind of Pex. Like, it was just kind of one Pokemon that Alex couldn't handle. It was really just one play of clicking HP Ice on a Landorus, and then he was just able to kind of win with Toxapex. He didn't even play out the rest of the game. He just recognized, like, okay, it's over. I can't break this. And he was right. There was no way for him to break it at that point. So I give him props for just kind of recognizing and concealing defeat, but it's still a loss. And so, yeah, L5 got a very solid 6-0. Kept rocks off the field. Let things that were able to take damage and still do work later in the match, like Latios, take damage, and kept things healthy that would have won on the match, like Toxapex. So yeah, L5, not quite number 5, number 6. Win next week. I'll put you at number 5. King L5, number 5. Being at number 5, Toronto Weezings. Very in control game. A lot of the winners of this match that are in the top were very in control victories. Like, this one, just setting up Brock's turn 1, knowing that he likely didn't have any hazard removal unless it was Torn itself. In which case, he could have gotten rocks up later on Snorlax, on Slowbro, potentially Incineroar, depending on a spread. It was really a no drawback play. Getting the prediction, the read, and going for Woodhammer as he went into Tornadus basically sealed it at that point, just because with the spikes up, he really didn't have any good way to derail the plans of clean up everything late game with Weavile. And like that is the thing. I said earlier that close combat could have cleaned up his team. He could have potentially just sacked off a lot of more Pokemon until the point where Ice Shard just came in and killed Sock. But that lowers the differential a lot more. And it was still, despite the poison, it still felt like a very in-control game by Daniel. He made sure that everything took damage that needed to take damage. He never let Scarf Sock take away his win condition of Gengar, because if he let Gengar go down, Scarf Sock actually could have won. Or could have taken a lot of Pokemon with him, at least. So, yeah. Very in control win. Also, Air Balloon Entei. That was cool. I loved Air Balloon Entei. And we've all never even needed to hit the field. So, yeah, very in control win. When a Pokemon doesn't even need to hit the field for you to win, you know the win was pretty solid. That's just my feelings on the matter. Number 4, Ace of Base and his Anaheim Altarias. Moving up 4 spaces. Because he proved to me how solid and scary this team is. Freaking Scarf Gothitelle, which could have potentially cost him the game, but he even did a good job of recognizing Scarf Celebi so he could disguise. That was actually a really ingenious play, that you could have disguised Scarf Gothitelle to still get a surprise kill later by still being slower than Scarf Celebi. Knock it out with Signal Beam, and then saves Scarf Goth later. Like, Inverse after the match said, the second I realized it was Scarf Goth, I had a win. He never had a chance to realize it was Scarf Goth, because that information hadn't been revealed yet, unless he just predicted it. Ace did a really good job, plus Mega Kang showing how much of a threat it is, and the play of knowing that he wasn't going to be able to knock him out with another earthquake, and going for Z Rain Dance on the turn that he went for Protect to get more health back. Granted, he wouldn't have died to the earthquake anyway, but it was a solid play to force in the Celebi to show it was Scarf, to then make that play afterwards of disguising the Scarf Goth. Also, credits for him for actually using Comfy and using it well. And Excadrill did Excadrill things. I still don't really like Excadrill in this draft, unless, then again, I don't like Gigalith on APP's draft. Maybe they can symbiosis here. So, yeah. Let's hope that this team doesn't go 10-0. Actually, because I really don't want to see a team this disgusting just steamroll the league, but I feel like it can. I feel like I'm going to end up putting him at number 1 just because of how disgusting his team is. Prove me wrong, other B players, or prove me exactly right, Mr. Ace of Base. Number 3, Magic and his FC Poplio. He played a very solid game. Pursuing the Mew, making sure that it couldn't defog or couldn't do any Thunder Wave shenanigans later, abusing the fact that Genius had no fairy types, using Rotom Wash as the bulky pivot it's known to be, Doublade and Escavalier being Scolipede counters, not just checks. Well, checks in Escavalier's department, a full-on counter into Blades. Like, it was a very impressive win. I don't really have much to say. It's just, he just abused the flaws in Genius's draft and drove a truck through it. I was very impressed and very convinced of this win, despite it being one of the lower differentials of the week. Like, I feel like a lot of the wins this week were very decisive, and that's why a lot of these people are up higher, because I feel like this was a very decisive win. And it showed the quality of David's team. Just when it all comes together, it just breaks. And he had solid switch-ins. He kept Deancey healthy to make sure that Scolipede or Dragonite couldn't sweep. I mean, granted, he could have had Iron Head and could have went for the Paraflinch. But, you know, you never know with those types of things. So anyway, number 2. Risepool and the Rhine Valley Guardians. He's 6-0. I said everything before. The freeze didn't matter. I don't think the freeze actually mattered. It might have mattered psychologically, because you could tell Arf got really tilted, but I don't think it mattered in terms of the game. I feel it's hard to talk about like what could have been, but at the same time, like, I feel like it would have ended very similarly. We didn't even get to see all of his sets. We saw Clear Smog and Moongus, which is clearly there for Altaria in case it's set up. We didn't even really get to see what Greninja did. We saw Kartana had sub. We didn't even get to see Gardevoir go Mega. And then Heatran and Greninja. Heatran and Kartana just kind of won. Like, he basically brought 2 Pokemon in one, and one that froze one of his other Pokemon, but that's not really that big of an issue, I don't think. Like, it's hard, like, I don't want to shrug it off and say that it didn't matter, but I honestly don't think it mattered. I honestly don't think it would have changed the outcome, so it's hard to say that it mattered. Like I said, it might have mattered to Arf's Psyche, but he got 6 kills with Kartana at the end. Heatran weakened the team, and then Kartana just came in and got the kills, and Arf didn't even want to try to lower differential, which is kind of why I had him down at number 14. Like, after after I believe Victini went down, he just quit. And I don't like that. Even no matter what happens in the match, I feel like you should still try to lower the differential and you should still care. I feel that way because you put so much effort into your team and your opponent puts so much effort into his team. Just because you got hacked doesn't give you the right to just get rid of all that effort. I get it. I get you were upset, and I'm not blaming you. I might have, if I was that upset, I might have felt that way, but I don't think forfeiting is the right attitude to take during these matches. I remember I was in a position where someone had to take a phone call, and everyone was telling me to accept the forfeit win because he was taking forever, and I let the timer run down to about 10 seconds, and then I just stopped it, and I'm like, no, we're not taking this win. It's not right. I ended up losing that game due to hacks, but I hold no hard feelings towards the guy. And it's just a game. You gotta remember at the end of the day, it's just a game. And number 1 is still Jowl. Is still our friend Jowl, with a very decisive victory. Garchomp overtime wore down Landorus just by clicking Dragon Claw every time it was in. He didn't have good answers to... Ice didn't have good answers to really anything on Jowl's team. Like, Primarina, Superior, he had Charizard X, but... Jowl made a really solid read for going for Leech Seed on the incoming Charizard. And just, and forced the Charizard out with Superior. And, of course, the Tyranitar being there to basically shut down anything with Aurora Veil, even though he didn't bring Alola Ninetales. That's still solid prep. The defensive Celesteela that just shut down Landorus. Would have shut down any offensive form of Drapion, shut down Mega Arrow. Mega Arrow? No, regular Arrow. Life Orb Arrow, which is still a very threatening form of Arrow. Oh, I need to drink so much. Also, a very nice bit of prep. He had Energy Ball Superior, basically to not lose to Vincoon. Basically, he could have potentially stalled him out of Energy Balls, but I get the feeling that Jowl had, multiple grass moves and wouldn't have just lost because he only had basically 4 Leaf Storms versus Suicune. That's very solid prep on his part. And, yeah, I guess I don't really have too much to say. Specs Prim is a monster. It killed half of his team. At least half of his team. Suicune couldn't do anything to stop it. Zard couldn't really stop it. I also like the way he just played so aggressively with his Garchomp. If he sets up, I'm going to force him to attack me, which really makes me think he had Scarface Elf in the back to just revenge kill that, since he was so confident in going Garchomp every single time. And if he set up, he was going to force him to kill him, and if he didn't set up, he got a free Dragon Claw off. He didn't Mega, because he didn't have to, and it kept him faster than Zard. And Jowl just kind of controlled the entire tone of this match, and proves why his team is, in my opinion, still the best one, and why he is a very scary player going forward in Beedrill. So let's get into the final list, and you see the final list right here. I'm going to let this show for a couple seconds as I sign off. Hopefully next time, if I seem slightly rambly, I will pick a better time to record, because it is now 8 in the morning. But, I honestly also blame the fact that I was trying to get my computer fixed, and it just didn't want to be fixed. It's like, nah, man, I'm done. You're not getting OBS. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'll just use my iPad. I really hope this went off without a hitch, because I'm going to be really upset if I find out that I've been, really quiet, or that, something's going on. Because there's no way for me to check until the recording's done. And I can't delete this, by the way, so this is unedited. So, Yeah. More like HIVEI'mIan, am I right? Ha ha. Ha ha. Night, everybody.